Welcome to Florida Men on Florida Man with Greg, Wayne, Josh, and Cameron, the podcast where Floridians discuss the legends, lore, and crazy stories that always seem to take place in Florida. We are here this evening, very special, on location at the Wonder House in Central Florida with Krislin and Drew. We are so honored to be here. They're hosting our Halloween special. And we would love if we could just kind of maybe kick it off just right off the bat. Tell us a little bit about the Wonder House and what it is.
Sure, absolutely. So the Wonder House, it is just, well, in my opinion, the most magical place on earth. But it's this really quirky, crazy, just really the heart of Florida. You know, the quintessential Florida is the Wonder House. It was a house. It was actually started construction in 1926. Brilliant guy. His name is Conrad Shook. He actually was given 1 year to live. And of all things, he decides to come down here to Florida in 1926 and build his dream house. And that's what we're sitting in.
Right. This honestly, like, it's breathtaking. It's a massive home. But prior to taping the episode, we did a tour, and we were talking about the fact that every single room could be its own episode. There's so much information.
Yeah.
Give us an idea of how big the house is and kind of the layout of the house.
Yeah. Sure. So it's a very large house. You actually have 16 outdoor porches in the house. If you're not counting the porches, you're right around 8,300 square feet.
Okay, so it's very similar to my house.
Right. Yeah.
Very similar.
My bungalow.
Right.
It's 4 stories above ground. It's actually 2 stories below ground. So
Okay,
which was mind blowing.
So that's the 6 levels.
6 levels. Yeah.
6 levels of pleasure.
The basement or the sub
There's
a basement and a sub basement.
There's a basement, a sub basement, and a sub basement.
Okay, well,
it's so
you don't have
deep.
to brag about it.
It's so deep that when we opened it, I got that like roller coaster feeling in my stomach.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna fall in.
I started walking away immediately, just like, no, thank you, I can't.
Well, it didn't help that there was a skeleton crawling up the stairs. I think that was also
that was a nice touch. There's also like
not
8
all the guests make it out.
Right, we're getting the vibe.
We go downstairs. There's like 8 skeletons sitting on couches.
with their arms around each other like they're buds.
Like we interrupted their party.
Right.
They're having a good time, you know. You guys could have joined them.
Right. We may. Let's see what happens.
Be careful.
So
I might need a new lampshade or something.
Right, exactly. So how did you come to acquire the Wonder House? I mean, this is historic, Florida at its best, and you guys call this place home, correct?
Absolutely. So the story all started actually with an origin story.
Okay,
awesome.
Come on.
And Krislin.
We love origin stories.
Nothing like a good origin story.
Right.
So the way Krislin and I met in incredibly romantic fashion.
Yes.
Was Tinder.
Nice.
Okay.
Let's go.
Wow. How retro.
Yeah. Absolutely. We're really a throwback couple if you think of it, So we're mindlessly thumbing my way up through an app, and somehow we meet up.
Earlier you did say we met online, and I pictured some history forum.
Yeah.
That you were on site.
Historical building forum. Yeah.
You pictured wrong.
I really did.
So one of the things that actually drew us together got us talking history. We were both really, really into history and both very, very interested in it. One of the things Krislin was interested in was Florida history. Cool. So we got talking that way, and finally, apparently, I set up enough good one-liners. And,
hey, man.
I actually got a date.
Right.
I think it was our second date. They were good. You hushed your mouth.
You said nothing.
She did
Sure
all
was
work.
your ex, right?
Oh, no.
Okay. We're not going to get into that story.
That's a different podcast.
That's completely different podcast entirely.
Oh, this is good.
Anyways, no, it's not. So anyways, we got talking, hit it off, really into the history angle. We were hitting all that. Finally, time for the date. I think it was our second date. Krislin asked me, have you ever seen the Wonder House?
Come on.
And you're like, is that an innuendo?
And I'm like, I'm not trying to go to a strip club, I'm a nice guy, nothing like that. Come on, Krislin, like really? This is our first date.
Second date.
the
Second date, all right. And she tells me, no, it's a historic house. I want to take you to it. And I'm like, okay. So I'm game. It's
Yeah.
roughly
Yeah.
kind of a good intermediate
All that
location.
bluffing about history, you're like, oh,
Right,
you're really
right.
into history?
She's gonna call me now. You know, like,
We were already driving around in the area. We went to Sebring. We went to Lake Wales. We went to Bartow.
all the hot spots.
So we went to
all
all
the
the
hot
places.
spots.
Yeah, we checked out everything. And then we
Nice.
were at the Bartow History Center. So the
Oh
Polk
my
County History Center. We
gosh.
were at the museum, and then I looked up other things to do in the area. And the Wonder House came up. I was really big into urban exploring, like
Oh,
way
that's
back
that's
in the
creepy.
day.
I
Would
don't
not
get
do
into
it
that.
ever
she needs
again
a
now.
trespassing
because-
charge right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prosecutor.
Yep.
Right. So I found the Wonder House, and I said, okay, let's check out this one last place before we head back to Sebring.
Yeah.
And then we show up, and Drew just immediately becomes obsessed with this
Wow.
house.
That's so
and it was
awesome.
his
A true love
father's
story.
birthday.
A true
so it's
love
like my
story.
birthday
Oh,
weekend, but it's
you
his
gotta
dad's
tell this story.
birthday.
I was gonna leave this one off. It's a little
No.
embarrassing.
This is the best.
So he walks
best.
up to the house, and he's like, "Oh my god, it's for sale! This is amazing! This is so cool! I'm in the
It
market
had a
for
for
a
sale
house."
sign? Like
It had a for
outside?
sale sign for
Unreal.
$283,000.
Unreal.
This is our
No
second
way.
day, and I
God
was
for
like,
bless.
This
"Yeah,
is a
okay,
shell,
cool."
right, of a house.
It's a shell.
amazing.
Yeah.
But
I'm
So-
sorry. Yeah.
Go on, tell
had
the
it on
stories.
his, like,
Yeah, please.
his lock screen on his phone for like the next 6 months.
Really?
But he was obsessed with the house. He wanted it. And again, second date, I was like, yeah, like you can't do this by yourself. Like this
No.
is super overwhelming.
Right.
I
Like,
remember.
no, absolutely not.
I told her I'm buying this, and she
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
"No, you're not." And I was like,
and then you called
I
your
am.
dad without wishing him a happy birthday because you can't remember dates.
Oh, I love
"I'm
it.
not the greatest with dates. I will
Yes.
willingly concede that
Okay.
particular fact." So I might have called my dad to tell him about this exciting house I was going to buy, and I think he was hoping I was going to wish him happy birthday.
Most
Kind of
dads
waiting
do. Yes.
and waiting and waiting
Yeah,
for it,
right.
and it didn't come.
And you're
So-
like, all right, bye.
and that's kind of how it went.
Oh,
And,
no. What
we
was
still
your,
haven't talked yet, but
Things are rocky.
when you
It's been
saw
4 months.
this house on this second date? What was like your vision for it, though? I mean, obviously, she said, Krislin said that you become kind of obsessed with it. But was there a vision, or was it like I just want the property, or did you see yourself like living in this house, or like kind of touring, giving tours in this house like you do now? Like, what was your original thought?
oh, I could see myself living in it.
Okay, so that was
for
the
sure.
goal.
Yeah, but this was a concrete
Tours-
shell. Like it
Oh,
leaked.
it was completely
water
run-
just leaked
That was
in it.
part of the charm of it, my friends.
Yeah.
It was
Oh, really?
completely falling apart.
Yeah.
Right.
It was really, really cool. I fell in love with it. I started researching it. Once I started doing research, there are so many newspaper articles, magazines. We found them from just about every single state in the United States. I think Krislin found one from Munich, Germany, a newspaper article. It was an
Really?
international sensation in its heyday. So really, really interesting. I was really into all of that. So I started asking people, what's the story? I started asking local Bartow residents, like, why is that house abandoned, just sitting there? And they kind of give me this sad story. It's no one wants to take it on. It's in such bad shape.
Yeah.
It's going to get torn down.
Yep.
And of course, at this point, I'm completely obsessed. I'm like, I can't let that happen.
Right, of
I
course.
will not let that happen.
course.
So I pretty much just saved up everything I could. I sold everything I could. I literally borrowed money from every single location I could.
Wow.
I don't think Krislin loaned me anything, but I'm still a little bitter over that.
Yeah.
Why is that my
Her nest egg.
responsibility?
She's sitting on a
Hey,
big
come on now.
nest
It's
egg.
called student loan debt.
Hey, it's rough. It's rough. Hey, it was biting me at the time.
So whenever you got the house, what was that like? I mean, when the house belongs to you.
Well, it
like-
went to auction, right? So
Did
you
it?
didn't
I
even,
went to auction.
even though you
Okay.
had
Went to
the
auction.
cash, you
Wow.
didn't even.
Yep. It actually went to
wasn't-
2 auctions.
Oh, no.
So the first auction, I wasn't around at that point, I don't believe. But the person, so it was, this house is famous for people buying it, and then they would back out of the sale because it was in such bad
Really?
shape. They would move
Okay,
in.
they
I
get
think you have
in.
like a 3-day back out period during a closing. They all backed out on it.
Yeah.
In fact, it actually went as is at auction, and the person backed out on it.
Okay.
So this is the second auction. And apparently the story was that developers were actually interested in the property.
Oh,
The
no.
house was going to be torn down. It's going to be turned into 7 different lots.
No.
So I hear that story, and of course, I'm obsessed with the house.
Yep.
I'm absolutely mortified. This is the worst day of my life. I've got to save it. I can't let this house get destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
So I went to the auction.
This is an in-person auction, not like behind
No,
the
it's
computer.
online. It's online.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I'm actually, I don't know if I should say this with my boss, but I'm at work right now.
Okay. And he's fired.
I am still at the same job, but I'm at work. I'm actually doing a deposition, and the auction happens. And I'm like, I need someone to cover this depot really quick for me.
Yeah.
So I have someone, my partner at the time, comes in, steps in, covers my auction,
Yeah.
or covers my depot.
Yeah.
I run out of the deposition. I bid on this house really quick.
Wow.
Win the house at auction. jump
That
back
is
into my
so
deposition.
crazy.
Really?
That's insane.
I do. Yep.
Yeah, you had to contain your excitement during the deposition.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people ask me, like, dude, you must have been so excited. Like it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
It was not, dude. My heart like fell down in my stomach
Yeah.
when I won it. It was
Because
just
no
like,
money now.
what have I done?
Right.
You know, with a house like this, you either have to have a lot of money
Yep.
or a lot of time. So hopefully I'll live like forever.
Okay.
But, 'cause I need a lot of time
now
to
you're at
finish this
neither.
thing.
So you move in how quickly? Because it's a shell of a house, you said, right?
Yes.
So no power,
no power, no running water.
no running water.
So legally, you can't move in.
Correct.
That's why you're
So,
camping.
Right.
legally, I'm just
You're working long
hobo.
hours. you're working long
you're
hours.
squatting in the house.
Yeah,
And
right.
I'm
You're
gonna
transient.
possess it from myself.
Right.
Okay.
So you were just camping here and working.
I was
on it.
just camping here. Correct.
Okay.
That's
wild.
amazing.
So I
That's
closed
insane.
on it in, let's see, October of 2015. I moved in January 1st, 2016. The lease on my apartment ended, and I said,
Oh, wow.
let's do it.
Yeah.
No running water, no electricity.
Right.
That's the gym's for, right?
Right.
Maybe.
24
So I got in really good shape using their showers.
Now, if you could, can you talk a little bit about the previous owners?
Sure,
Just
sure.
briefly of with each one, the guy who built the house, and then from that point forward.
Absolutely. So you all start, the genesis story for the house
Yeah.
is Conrad Shook. He is the brilliance behind the house. He's the absolute. And if I had a fraction of his genius, I'd probably be finished by now with the restoration. But he starts the house. He's given an incredible story. He's given 1 year to live. He comes down here to Bartow, Florida in 1926, and he ends up proving every single one of his doctors wrong. He'll end up living almost another 50 years.
Incredible.
He won't pass away until his really his early 90s, almost continuously working on the house.
Yeah, we actually covered a lot of people that came down to Florida because their doctor said you'll live
Right.
a lot longer,
I can
and
believe that.
they do end up living a lot longer. It's not usually because of
It's
the
a
Florida
great
weather.
place
Florida,
to
it's
live.
Florida.
Yeah.
Can you prove it's not Florida?
I could,
Right, there you
cannot
go.
prove the opposite.
Lawyer.
Yeah, lawyer.
So at that
So
that
Shook-
point, he's here, he's doing better, and he's just like, I'm gonna build a house.
Yes. He's
dream
working on the house.
house.
It's gonna be a dream house for the family. One of the things, he lost all of his businesses at this time.
Yeah.
So he has no income coming in. He runs out of money.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily for him, word gets out. There's this crazy man who is building a German castle in
Who
the
doesn't
middle
wanna
of
see a
Florida
crazy
by
man?
himself.
Yeah,
People start coming from all over.
Absolutely.
And that's when he gets the idea. I'm gonna open it up as a tourist attraction. That's how I'll raise money to finish the house.
Cool.
Right.
That's so cool.
So-
And how
Incredible.
long until that happened? Like, at what point was it done enough to start letting people that people wanted to tour it, to where he could raise funds?
Sure. Sometime in the late 20s.
Okay.
It was actually getting enough attraction where people were starting to come see it.
So this
And
is a
he's-
short amount of time.
Sure,
It's not
sure.
like a 30-year like passion project. I mean, he was
No.
he was quick.
Very quick.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a dream house for the family, but they actually never actually got to live in it.
Really?
I think it was just such a cash cow for Conrad as he's working on, running guests through. It's kind of like, well, kids, you know what? I promised you this great, awesome
yeah,
house,
beautiful.
but that shack over there on the corner of the property,
No.
and that's where the kids end up living. They end up living in
No.
this little shack on the corner of the house.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't wanna
normal
skip-
house. It wasn't.
I'm
a
told it's
shack.
nothing more than a shack.
No,
Oh,
I
no.
I've seen photos of it.
Have
a
you? It's
normal
worse than the
house,
shack?
Yes.
Kristen's killing my
No.
stories here.
Sorry.
I don't want to
The
skip.
truth.
Burst in your bubble. It was just a normal house.
Like a house.
But
just on
compared
the
to like the
corner.
dream
Like
house,
this.
Compared to the
Compared to the
dream
Wonder
house.
House?
compared to what was being
Compared to the
sold,
Wonder
I'm not
House.
saying
right?
compared to
Everything's
the
a
Wonder
800
shack.
square
House.
feet to 8,300 square feet. Let's
Right.
be honest.
Everything's a
different.
shack compared to this thing.
Well,
Right.
and I don't want to skip into your story too much, but when we were in the sub basement, you were telling us about the children that were hand chiseling and had a pickaxe to
Yeah,
make this whole place and like chisel out.
because he didn't like modern tools, right?
Correct. One
So-
of the things.
They do all this work and they can't even live in it.
Correct.
Like that's what's like sticking out to me right
I used
now.
to get angry when my dad made me mow the lawn.
Right.
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Oh, he would get really angry.
This
though.
guy's
It's-
chiseling,
I understand.
I want to watch cartoons on Saturday morning, not mow your
Did anyone
lawn all
else
day.
have one of the most dangerous jobs on planet Earth? Holding the flashlight for their father. who
Right.
Worked on a car
Exactly.
or something.
under the car,
Yeah,
under
I'm
the
still-
Suburban.
I still have PTSD
The
from
dad's
this moment.
holding a lantern for these children who are
Oh my-
pickaxing. Like,
Yes.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, so these kids actually end up building
How many
the
kids
house.
does he have?
He had 10 overall.
Oh, well, that helps.
well, you have to.
That helps, absolutely. Pre-built army,
Yeah.
So he does, one of the daughters actually will pass away when he's up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
She actually dies in childhood, so doesn't get to work on the house. But those other 9 children, they're working on this
Right.
house.
They're
Right.
wishing they had.
Yeah. So one of Conrad's interesting quirks, he's actually he believes everything should be done the right way.
Okay.
No
Right.
power
His
tools.
right way, because it's not
his
like
right way,
a
absolutely.
book of right way.
Yes.
It's like him.
No power tools, no heavy machinery. Everything in the entire house is done completely by hand.
Yeah.
So you can just
And out of
astronomical
stone.
amount of work that these kids did. I mean, they must have been at least as industrious and must have been close to as brilliant as
And
Conrad
jacked,
to actually put
probably
this together.
jacked,
Oh my
right?
gosh, there must have been bodybuilders.
Like the
Beefcakes,
walls,
all of them.
right? The walls are, you said like 2 feet thick stone?
Yes, on
like,
the
what are-
second
what are the
floor, they're about
walls?
2.5 foot thick. They're going to taper inward slowly. By the 4th floor, you're about 18 inches.
And what are the walls made of?
They're actually Conrad's own invention of concrete. So he's
what I love.
Conrad is famous.
this
He does
part.
literally everything. He is a
Yeah.
poet. He is an entrepreneur. He's an engineer. He's most famous for being an inventor. One of his most famous inventions is actually the modern cinder block. He actually comes up with its form for it, so it can be mass produced.
Yeah.
So
is
he
so
is
crazy.
probably one of the leading experts on concrete and cement work of his
Unreal.
time.
That's
So
insane.
he actually decides to build this entire house out of concrete.
Mm-hmm.
It's his own formulation. It is incredibly hard. We also think it's a type of maritime cement, maybe like the Romans actually would have used.
Now you're speaking our language, a maritime
yeah.
cement.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There you go.
right up our alley.
Roman concrete really
So
gets me going.
typically, we would have, and this time people are typically using Portland cement. You know, you're
yeah,
gonna
of
add
course they
water,
are.
You're,
Yeah.
It's going to cure and dry over a period of about 50 years, and then it's going to start cracking. It's going to start breaking down.
Yeah.
Conrad cement, no
No.
signs of that whatsoever.
Well, we're almost at this 100 years.
You're coming at right 100
Yeah.
years right now, and virtually no signs of that.
Unreal.
So,
Did he ever get to live here? And so it was just a project the entire time he was alive.
correct.
Oh,
Correct.
really?
Never finished. Never got to live in it. His kids never got to live in it. I personally, my feeling is just he was such a perfectionist and he had so many ideas. He starts packing this house full of inventions.
Right.
Yeah.
So I
This
think
is
in his mind, the
very
house
cool.
was never finished. Of
course.
So
It's like,
it
what
was-
else can I do
It's a
with it?
project. Yeah.
Right.
It's just constant. It's a blank canvas that he's constantly painting and repainting.
So Conrad, he moves on. Who's owner number 2? Who comes in after Conrad and inherits the project?
Yes. So owner number 2 is actually the person to actually live in the house.
Really?
That is the Ducharme family. It's famous for Lucy Ducharme. So what actually happens, this house becomes this huge tourist attraction.
Sounds fancy. Ducharme.
Oh, it is.
Right.
It is. And she is absolutely the quintessential Southern lady
Really?
who's actually from Wisconsin.
Oh,
Really?
Well,
that
Minnesota.
accent.
Krislin, excuse me,
Minnesota.
Midwest.
Either
All
way.
right.
Krislin coming in
to keep me
clutch.
straight. I appreciate it. But she's from the Midwest. I guess Minnesota's not even really Midwest, is it? It's,
Who can tell
it's
anymore?
it's starting to get more west. But anyways, she comes down here and she's like the quintessential entertainer.
Yeah.
And this incredible lady. I always tell my guests when I'm doing tours, she's like, to me, it reminds me of like a good Cruella de Vil.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
okay.
That's
She's
a
gonna
good
be wearing
visual.
full length white gloves. I mean, even if she's going to buy a gallon of milk at Publix,
Awesome.
Right.
full length white gloves. She's got these big fancy hats, these incredible dresses. She's got these full like eyelashes she will wear. I mean, she
unreal.
goes the whole 9 yards
Right,
at all
right.
times. But she's famous for her time in the house for the entertaining. She's going to entertain all sorts of dignitaries, VIPs, diplomats, politicians here in the house. And that's what the house is known for from her time in the house. which
What
is from all
years
the way-
did she have it?
63 all the way up to 1999.
Wow.
Wow.
What a
Okay.
stretch.
Yep.
So that's when the house kind of became the
Like a home.
The
At that
home,
point. I mean,
right,
that was the
exactly.
first
Yes,
time it
yes.
was a
And a
home.
First
little
person
more-
to live in it. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, the vibe you said earlier was the Great Gatsby.
Yes,
that kind
yes.
of that's the kind of the
That's
attitude of
no,
big
it's not
house.
these crazy, wild, lavish. Think high-end entertaining, and you're probably
Sure.
more on par with
Oh, yeah.
Lucy.
We think high-end entertaining. I mean,
Right.
We live high-end.
I can tell. I mean, look at you
Right,
guys.
right,
It
right.
just screams class.
So that goes. I mean, so that's not too far before you guys purchased the house, and then now here you are. You own the house. Do you feel like a sense of like almost like inherited responsibility?
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because it's bigger than all of us in this room.
These
you
are
know?
huge shoes to fill.
Sure.
They are. They are.
Yeah.
Luckily, I wear a size fit now. I'm kidding. Honestly, when you have a project like this, it's nothing you feel like you actually own. It's almost like you're a temporary,
You're a caregiver.
Yes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you are. You are. You're really.
Well, you didn't fill it with like IKEA either, so you're also a
There's
caretaker.
lots of IKEA in there.
Is there? Oh no. Okay. Well,
If you watch the Netflix episode, Krislin and I fought a little bit about the IKEA stuff. See, I wanted
curtains.
all authentic late 1800s.
Ultimate interiors.
You know,
Right.
Krislin of her, Nordic origins or whatever she's from. She wants,
God bless her.
she wants IKEA. She wants to support her homeland.
Okay.
But,
the
I want,
sweet- the
authentic late
mid-century
1800s.
modern.
Yes.
Well, since you mentioned that, how did that process go? You're on the show Amazing Interiors
Yes.
on
Correct.
Netflix. How did that process go? Like, how did they come to find out about you guys?
It took a lot of internet stalking, apparently.
By
Okay.
which you or them?
No, them.
Oh, really? Okay.
So the production company sent me a message on Instagram,
okay.
and they're like, "Oh, can you tell me a little bit about your house?" And I get just so
We
many,
get a lot of
random
messages.
messages
Right.
like that through email and Facebook and everything like that. So I ignore it for a while.
Yeah.
Then
Well,
they
it's not
send me
from
an email.
Netflix, it's like-
No, it doesn't say Netflix.
Okay,
It just
then
it's
why
like
would
a
you answer?
random lady.
Mr. Netflix.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. And then they send me an email. Then they send me a Facebook message. Then they go back to Instagram. And I'm like, okay. So I'll be like, okay, yeah, the Wonder House, is this historic house we took on as a project, et cetera, et cetera. And then eventually they, dropped the Netflix. And I was like, oh, okay, well, tell me more.
Krislin sold.
I would be too.
Yeah, what do I have to do?
Amen.
So basically, I kind of pitched the Wonder House to them and say, this is a project we've been working on for a couple years. This was in 2017. It was all filmed in 2017 at the time.
Uh-huh.
So they come out to film 3 times
Oh, really?
for 2 days at a time. So it was about 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. They filmed
Long days.
long days.
Really?
And so the first time they filmed was August of 2017. Then they
No.
came back in October right after Hurricane Irma, which was really frustrating
gosh.
for us because we
Oh,
had
yeah.
a lot of damage. And then they came back to film like the final during Thanksgiving break. So,
Oh, really? Oh, well, how
Are you gonna tell
convenient
them?
of everything.
Are you going to tell them my hair story?
Yes. Oh, God. Oh,
Oh,
no.
no.
Okay. So,
maybe I
the
should tell
first
it.
night.
Okay.
Well, do you want to?
I'll take it away. This
Okay,
is-
go for it.
Was it
So-
a faux hawk?
If you've
No.
watched it,
Okay.
I may or may not be like full on like skinned in that particular
Okay.
the first episode, and then I have hair later on in it. So the story
You
behind
broke
that,
continuity.
I did.
Yeah.
I really
Several
messed
times.
up there. So the story was Krislin was a little anxious about the filming, a little bit.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm a super light sleeper. If anyone moves, I wake
Okay.
up. So Krislin keeps shifting, moving, so I can't sleep at all.
Uh-huh.
So I'm a little upset over this. So I'm just like, you know what? This is the first day of filming. I'm gonna get up.
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and didn't get a haircut. My hair's kind of
Oh,
disheveled.
No. Oh, no.
I'm gonna give myself a haircut before.
Okay, middle of the night.
Right before Netflix.
Well, it's like 5 o'clock
Right.
probably, 5 or 6. I can't
was
sleep.
like
I'm like, if there's ever a good time to give a haircut, it's 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm half asleep.
Most barbers ask you to come in for the good haircuts.
I
at
mean,
6
the
in
good
morning.
ones, the classy ones,
The classy
the
ones.
5-star accommodations. So I go up there and usually I buzz my head at about a 4, a 4 guard.
Okay.
So I go ahead and I immediately start and I'm buzzing it. I'm like half asleep.
Oh, yeah.
And it feels different.
It does.
And I don't know what it is, but and I can't quite
That
tell.
morning sun.
Yes,
shining out.
something is different.
Yeah.
And then I finally look at it and I realize I didn't put,
guard.
Oh
the
my
guard
gosh.
on.
What? Not
So
No
I am
way.
missing this huge just chunk of my hair just in the back.
Yeah.
And so immediately I'm like, I can recover from this. And I'm like, Krislin, I need a lightning bolt shaved in the back of my head. She won't do it.
Or Netflix.
I'm thinking lightning bolt, maybe that'd be kind of cool. Maybe I could recover from this.
Absolutely.
She won't do it. So you know what? Drastic times, drastic measures. I don't know what to
Right.
do. And I'm thinking it's all going to have to go.
That's a hard fate.
This is
from
it.
Zero to-
Zero is hard to, come back from. So I went ahead and I buzzed the entire thing.
Wow.
So
What's
I was
the
really
fir-
hoping I didn't have like a disformed head or something.
It's the first time in your whole life. that
First
you
time,
had-
first
wow.
time.
Right before Netflix.
Did you feel the need to explain to the Netflix crew, like, hey, here's what happened?
I normally don't have this.
I tried to play it like a boss.
Right.
Yeah.
No, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So one thing that I found like incredibly interesting when we were doing the tour was you mentioned there's a tunnel system on the property, but then you also said that there were secret entrances and stuff like that you haven't even discovered them all yet.
Yes.
Just
So-
in the house, not even the tunnels, right?
Yes. Well, both.
Yeah, right.
So when we actually we first started our research, we started initially with newspapers, magazines, that sort of thing. Then we started kind of branched out. We started interviewing people who had connections to the house, either people who knew the builders, who worked on the house, former contractors, former owners, that kind of thing. So a lot of what we discovered was entrances and
Right.
secret things. So of course it's really, really exciting. So we're looking for all these things. We've heard of all sorts of, chambers. There's all sorts of rumors, urban legends, stories, all sorts of things like
You
that.
hoping
with
to
the
strike
house.
gold in one of these,
Some of them,
right?
well, let me back up.
Okay.
This is a good one.
Okay.
So one of the every year someone brings us something like original relic back to the house.
Nice.
One year someone brought us one of the original actual sketches that Conrad Shook did,
Really?
No way.
which is really, really cool
Yeah.
because
Really cool.
one of the interesting things about this house was actually done without blueprints. One of the other cool things Conrad
Okay.
did, he did the house backwards. He did it freeform. The entire blueprint was in his head.
Well, that's
Okay.
That's
Well,
so crazy.
That might
So-
change every week, right?
Right.
Come
Well,
up with new
maybe it
ideas.
may have. So they actually bring me this sketch. So we're going a bunch of them actually. So we have a bunch of sketches of different rooms. So Conrad actually, when he came down here, he sketched each room out individually for his kids to work on.
Oh, God. Okay.
So one of the sketches,
Jesus.
yeah, they had it good, right?
Yeah, right.
Great life experience,
Right.
as my dad would have told me. So actually, we start matching these sketches up to the different rooms in the house. We're hoping to restore it back to original. So this is perfect. We have his original sketches, what he originally intended. One we can't really figure out. We finally are like looking and looking. We finally found out what room it is.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we're thrown off is because in the back of it, there is labeled vault room.
No.
Okay,
Okay.
jackpot.
And we have not
Dollar
found.
signs.
And sure enough, behind the vault room,
Yeah.
there's a hidden door. It's
No
hollow.
way.
Okay, we're getting our investment money back.
So
We're
that's
gonna
exactly what
retire.
I'm thinking.
Yep.
You know, it's gonna be absolutely filled with stolen Nazi gold.
Yeah.
Right, story.
right.
Yeah.
We haven't opened it yet.
No.
Wait, what?
I kid you not. I kid you not.
You're
We have
about to
not.
be-
That's because it's filled with dirt by the
Oh,
last owner.
okay.
That's
What?
the sad reality of it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It got
Where's this
collapsed
at?
in.
the
It
house?
is down in the
Sub.
No, just the basement. Just the
Okay.
basement.
Okay.
First floor.
So earlier you were saying too, like in the basement, the door that leads down into the sub and then the sub. You discovered that, right, by reading something.
Yes. It was actually an interview with one of Conrad's children.
Yeah.
So I had been in the house maybe a week or two. And I was just trying to research everything I could find about
Sure,
it.
sure.
I'd done a ton of research, probably done every single Google query you could do for Wonder House, Crazy
sure.
House, House That Breathes, every other house name it's had.
Right.
Started actually researching some of the different kids of Conrad. And I actually found an interview with one of them.
This
Where
is
there's-
like Bad Parenting Magazine. And they're like,
It
"Don't-"
might have been.
It's
you
like,
know?
"Don't do
I
this."
can't remember, to be honest. But they were asking him just kind of what was the most difficult thing he had to do in the house.
Okay.
So, you know,
me
your
start
mind
with this.
immediately goes to, it's got to be these crazy, horribly thick walls.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's got to go to, all the mosaics and all 16 of the outdoor porches these kids are doing by hand.
Okay.
But that's not the answer he gives.
Yeah.
The answer this kid gives, he's not a kid at this time, I should probably say.
Right.
But he says the worst thing we had to do, we had to chisel out the sub basement
Yep.
and sub basement.
Okay.
Our father made us go 22 feet underground
Unreal.
level. So of course at that point I'm like, I gotta get home and find this thing. I didn't
Right.
even know it existed.
That's insane.
But one of the crazy things he said in that interview, he said even though there were new technological advances, even though there were jackhammers, things like that at
Yes.
this time,
Yeah.
their father gave them a hammer,
Yeah.
a chisel, and a pickaxe, and that's what these kids had to chisel all this out from.
Guy
So,
really
like,
hated his kids.
God, yeah. You really got to move away.
I think he
Crazy.
loved them. I think he loved them.
He
So
loved them.
Conrad, he made his first fortune
Yeah.
in the quarry industry, and he was born completely dirt poor. He had no money to his name. He didn't even have an education. He got about 2 years of grade school. His parents actually took him out of grade school to put him to work because they wanted him to put food on their table. So one of the things he did, he first started in the quarry industry. He started by himself. No labor.
did you-
He literally worked with himself with a pickaxe.
Okay.
And he sold rocks to people, and that's how he got started.
Yeah.
And he
Don't they
eventually-
just go, yeah, but there's a rock like right there.
Well, that's how it started. That's how it started.
Why do I want to buy a rock from some kid when look down the road, there's a rock. I'll take that for free.
Well,
Rocks
that's
seem
how
like
it
a tough
started.
sell.
Josh doesn't understand the quarry system.
I
It's
don't.
fine.
Yeah, I guess not. It's a rock.
Conrad would be disappointed.
Yeah.
Now, have you been in any of these tunnels?
I have not.
Okay.
So one of the things, once I started interviewing different workers for different owners, one of the actual of the last owners, contractors, explained to me a lot of this tunnel system was actually filled in with dirt. So even though it is chiseled out of bedrock,
course.
it's filled in with dirt. Last owner, he didn't discover all the entrances himself. So there's supposed to be a ton of different entrances to the actual house. He knew of one of them, and he apparently filled it in with dirt because he was worried about kids getting stuck in the tunnel system and exploring the house.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so
Lawsuits.
liability issue.
Yeah.
there.
Right.
And then B, people using it to break into the house.
Oh, true.
Right.
big
I can't
concern.
imagine insuring a place that has secret tunnels.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Okay. General liability.
Sucks.
Horrible. Yeah. The homeowners.
Did we even mention the moat? There's a
Yeah.
moat.
There's a
outside.
moat.
Butterfly
There's a moat.
shaped.
Yeah, there's
know-
a moat in the front yard.
Yeah.
Is any castle complete without a moat?
No.
Gotta have a
well,
moat.
you can't be called a castle. I
So
believe,
of course Conrad had to build a moat for the Wonder House, his
Right.
famous concrete castle. So the story of the moat, it all begins with Conrad coming down to Bartow, Florida, and running into smack dab into two huge problems. His first one is he wants to build a more traditional house. He wants it to build out of wood. He wants it to be
Right.
built out of lumber.
Okay.
So he goes to build it and he finds out, guess what? He can't find enough lumber. He can't find enough wood for this in this area.
Yeah.
So he says, I've only got a year to live. I'm not going to let that deter me. I'm just going to buy everything I can.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Okay.
I'm going to keep working on the house. His next issue he runs into very shortly after, he says, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go dig the foundation for the house.
Okay.
He goes to dig the foundation, and very unusual for this area in Florida, he hits bedrock. He can't dig a foundation.
Okay.
Yep. So most people probably would give up at this point. Maybe
Sure.
there's
Right.
a sign
Yeah,
from
right.
somewhere that's saying you shouldn't do this. Not Conrad.
They back
He's
out of
saying-
that sale.
Right, right.
Like,
Back
as
out.
is.
Maybe we move somewhere else. Miami is looking good this time of year. So not Conrad. He decides to completely flip-flop that to turn both negatives into a positive. He says, well, you know what? I'm not going to make a wood house. I'm going to build a concrete house. And you know what? I'm sitting on bedrock. I was always a quarry guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to start my own quarry right here on the property.
How
I'm going to use it
apropos.
to get my material.
Yeah.
So the moat in front of the house actually started life as an actual quarry. It was actually an
way.
aggregate pit where he got all the material to actually build
Okay.
these concrete walls.
That is incredible.
And it's not like right outside the house. I mean, it's like 20 yards.
Yeah.
But still, if it was me, I'd be like, well, the house is going right here, right next to where I undug the rock.
Well, most people put off to the side somewhere, make it nice and easy. Not Conrad.
Yeah.
He wants it to be a landscaping feature, so it will perfectly accentuate, his lawn and everything
with
else.
bridges over it.
Right. He puts two huge bridges over it, and instead of just quarrying, just digging a big hole like I think most people probably would have, he carefully sculpts it and quarries it as he's getting the material.
Well, it looks like it has like steps going down.
Yes, it's
also.
got steps all the way down, so it could actually be used as a swimming pool you could walk in and out of. And he makes it look like a butterfly, so you'll have this beautiful landscaping feature. And if you're on any of the northern of the 16 porches, you can look out and see this incredible butterfly, sitting in the middle of your, grounds.
We were on one of them, and another one of the hidden tunnels actually goes through the house. You could, I guess, when it was built
On the third story.
swim through.
Okay, now this is an urban legend. We haven't been able to confirm this. We have found some evidence it is true. But apparently there were actually 2 outdoor bathtubs Conrad put on the 3rd floor. They were later used as swimming pools. These are large, very large.
They're very large.
But there were 2 of them, one on the west side and one on the east side of the actual house. And apparently they were actually linked. So you could actually swim underneath the house between the 2nd and 3rd floors, all the way out to either side, underneath 2 bathrooms
Scary.
to either side of the house.
And just
the
to
porches.
clarify, the tunnel of that is the urban legend. The baths were there. The bath's not
The baths were there. With
yeah,
all the
there's
baths.
one still there. So that's not the urban legend. It's just the fact that they were connected.
Connected, correct,
Right.
correct.
Have you ever looked under the floorboards?
God, I
It doesn't make any sense.
It does actually. If you go
does
into the
not.
kitchen and look up, you'll actually see a drop down,
not.
which has been
That's
reinforcing
where the
for it.
floor right above goes,
It's a
and that's
small
where
spot.
the water drips every time it rains.
Oh,
too
no.
hard.
It's a small spot to swim through
might be
regardless.
leaking.
Sorry, Drew.
yes.
Debunked.
Debunked?
Not
Debunked.
debunked.
She's not
Right
a
here.
believer in the
There's no-
tunnel.
Okay.
Here's the
No.
Krislin loves being a hater. Let me tell you guys a story. So when I was
It's
first
called
gonna
being realistic.
so
Oh, no.
Kristen always wants to call this place her own and love on the Wonder House and everything else. Well, the truth of the matter is, Kristen tried pretty darn hard to talk me out of the Wonder House.
It
No,
was our
that
second
can't be
date.
true.
And then
Second
the
date.
I can understand
third
her
and
side of
fourth
that.
and
The second
fifth
date,
and
yeah.
sixth. She was still trying to talk me out of it. I vividly remember this one conversation where
gosh.
my parents had come to visit. I don't
Yes.
think they even met Krislin yet. And they're saying, my crazy son wants to buy this house.
Yes.
What do you think of that, Krislin?
That was 4 months after I met you.
And you know what her answer was?
Yeah.
He can't do it. He shouldn't
That is
do
correct.
it. He needs to stay away from this house.
Yeah.
This is the dumbest, stupidest idea I've ever heard in my entire
Just
life.
FYI, we were still not dating at that
He's
point.
crazy.
No.
But you know what?
real.
It's kind of interesting though because it's like the spirit of like Conrad and then the Ducharme family.
Yeah.
Like it's the people who kind of encounter the house and inherit the house, almost inherit the spirit that goes along with it.
Right.
The determination to make the house what it is. The room that we're in now is relatively central. And you were saying earlier this table in front of us had a coffin on it quite often.
Well, it has a coffin under it, right?
There's a coffin.
We have a
Inside
coffin.
of
We have
Soon.
a coffin. Yeah.
There will be a coffin on top of it for Halloween.
So
so.
so in honor of the season of Halloween.
Yeah, we have a child's coffin at the front.
There's a
of it.
nice child's coffin in front of us.
Probably a 5-year-old, I would guess.
Okay, we don't have to get
No,
specific.
I'm
I'd say
asking.
about 3 or 4.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
These are
With-
large babies. We're talking about
Right.
babies.
Yeah. Conrad's babies were huge.
They're enormous.
Very muscular.
Jack babies.
What is that, Nephilim?
Now with the spirit of Halloween,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some spooky stories attached to the home.
There's some spooky stuff in here.
I mean, yeah, even right now, that's kind of the vibe, right? I mean, it's cool spooky, but it's spooky.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any stories that like your go-to, like, hey, like this is some spooky stuff attached to the place?
Sure, absolutely.
Oh,
so
no.
the Wonder House.
I was hoping this would be a blanket no.
Absolutely
Because I'm
not.
the anti-haunt of the crew.
Right.
Right.
I'm
Anti-haunt.
anti-ghost.
Josh checks out every October, comes back the month after. He's ready to go.
Yeah, ready for Thanksgiving or
Right.
whatever.
You should check out now.
Right.
I'm gonna take off.
So the Wonder House has had a reputation for being haunted ever since the 1920s.
Sure.
Of course.
Always was
Yeah,
there.
crazy man.
So Krislin's more into the whole Halloween thing, the haunted stuff than I am, but
Halloween is a lifestyle.
There you go.
okay.
that's one thing I've learned from dating Kristlin. Absolutely.
Holiday lifestyle.
Absolutely. I don't know if it's a good lifestyle, but it is a lifestyle. But one of the interesting things, it's always had that reputation for being haunted.
course.
There have been things in the house. I've always been a bit of a skeptic in hauntings, ghosts, that kind of thing. There have been occurrences in the house that
Oh no, I don't like this.
I cannot explain.
Occurrences.
A
Do
lot
tell.
of them.
Do tell.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of strange things happen. My favorite is more of almost a comic story.
Pardon.
And so I got to back you guys up again. I know I
Please,
do that a
no.
lot, but and take you to my mother. So my dear,
Expected to go
Heaven
that
help
far
us.
back.
my dear beloved mother
Okay.
hates the Wonder House.
Really?
The easy way of putting it is probably she is not on Team Wonder House.
Okay.
Hashtag Team Wonder House. Not on Team Wonder
So
House.
never really liked the idea of me getting the house. Kind of always tried to talk me out of it. Never really liked it. Now, the first time she ever came to actually visit me and see the house, I vividly remember she walks in the door, and the first thing she does, she bends over and she runs her finger along a chair. And she lifts that finger up and she says, "There's dust.
Yeah. What's a
I
house?
told you, you will never, ever be able to actually take care of this house. You're never going to be able to restore it." And she goes on and on. You know, Drew, you've done a lot of dumb things in your life.
Oh my
but
gosh.
this is it. This is the, absolute paramount, just absolute foolishness that you have done. You were never going to recover from this financially. Think Tiger King. I'm never going to recover financially from this. Your entire retirement's going to be dumped in this house. You were the biggest idiot. I am ashamed to be your mother.
Do you cancel lunch at this point? You're like, I guess we should.
Well, I told you to dust that
She
chair.
She stays with us.
She came all the way from Virginia. At this point, I'm committed. There's no going back. So I'm like, oh man. So this is not like a brief 5 minutes. This is not a 15-minute. This is not like a 2-hour thing. This is like a continuous, nonstop.
A berating.
Just yes, berating is an absolute perfect word for it. So an interesting thing happened. So we use one door here in the, let's say, southeast corner of the house. It's pretty much the only one you can.
That's how you know a house is big. I'm sorry.
Lock.
But when you describe it with a compass.
The southeast wing of the house. So we're back there, and that's the door we typically use to get in and out of. It's one of the only ones we can actually lock with a key. All the others are just deadbolts. So it does have a deadbolt on top of that as well.
Yeah.
So she actually goes out, and we all do. There's no one in the house. And we come back, and the door is locked.
Okay.
And we can't get in. My key does not work because it's the deadbolt. And it's a deadbolt that you can only lock from inside the house.
Okay.
Nice.
So I would immediately blame Krislin.
Obviously.
Fortunately for her, she's away somewhere. She's got a rock solid alibi.
Does she though? You checked it out though?
I checked it out. No, that's the
I
first
was
thing I
at work
checked
in
out.
Fort Myers at the time.
Yes,
so
she-
I was
she's
2
actually
hours
gone.
away,
Okay.
busy.
So I'm really baffled by it. Like my first thought is, okay, it must be like spring loaded. My mom must not know how the door works. She probably messed with the latch, and it was like half cocked, and then she slams the door and it bolts shut.
Moms.
So I'm like, so of course me and my mom have a little heated debate over
Yeah,
this.
powwow.
Where I'm like, Mom, come on. Like I told you, just use the lock with the key. Like you locked us out. I ended up having to like buy a ladder and climb in through a window and break into my own house. It's not that fun. So we have a the heated debate over this, and she says, I did not touch it. I swear to you, I didn't touch it. I'm like, okay, Mom, okay. So fast forward a year later. So she comes to visit me again. I think it's Christmas time, probably.
Okay.
Okay.
She comes in and we have the exact same, debate. I'm like, Mom, do not touch the deadbolt. I'm not trying to break into my house again. Yes. Lo and behold, we go out somewhere.
No.
You guys guessed it. We are locked out.
What?
And the door is locked from inside the house. Krislin is gone. We are locked out. And then it becomes a continuing thing for, I think, 4 or 5 years after.
What?
Every single year my mother comes to visit, we get locked out from the house, and it is locked from the inside with no one in the house.
So your mom doesn't like the house, and the house doesn't like your mom.
It sounds like a very,
That's why she fell down the stairs.
Wait,
oh my
what?
God. Okay.
That was last year.
Oh my God.
I was at work. All my 100 students can vouch for me.
Okay.
So I think the house
The
decided
banana
to up
peel,
its game
though?
last time.
Oh my gosh.
So last time she came to visit, instead of locking her out, so that was the year 5.
Yeah.
So year 1 through 4, the
This
house
is
has
good.
successfully locked her out every single time she comes to visit.
Okay.
It's like a running joke with
That's
my dad
weird.
and I. We actually
Going
bought
easy
me a
on her so
ladder
far.
just so we could keep in the back so I can break into my own
my
house. And we keep a window unlocked whenever my mom comes to visit.
You want to say this on a podcast for a lot of people?
Yes.
Are you sure? Okay.
Absolutely.
We don't know when your mom
for the
visits.
5th year, I think the house decides to up its game.
Yeah.
So you know what? Locking her out just isn't enough for the house.
Yeah.
Right.
It decides that she's going to arbitrarily, it's Christmas time, and she's going to go on a sleigh ride down the stairs.
Okay. Wow. Just bump, 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 bump.
Oh, absolutely.
On the top.
Absolutely.
Home Alone style.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So,
Macaulay Culkin made an appearance.
So the house doesn't like your mom.
I don't think. Yes, and it's definitely a mutual feling.
No,
So-
Krislin, Halloween's a lifestyle.
Yes.
Now, you so Drew, a skeptic, now kind of knows, hey, the house doesn't like my mom. There's something else at work here. You not being a skeptic, how do you feel about some of the stories here?
So in my culture, we're pretty spiritual and into the supernatural. So growing up, that was always kind of a part of my culture. So when I moved to the U.S., I mean, it kind of continued. But I was always that kid that was, the quote unquote sensitive to things.
Uh-huh.
I've seen a lot of things. I've heard a lot of things. I felt a lot of things in my life. So, I mean, that's kind of the difference between Drew and I. Like, I know if there's something here. And now that we have
Don't
a
like
dog,
that.
it's
like
both
that.
Joan and I just kind of like staring at each other like, there's something in here. Like,
Yeah, Jonah Bark.
Something.
Actually, we need to shout out.
yes,
their
Joan
dog.
of Bark. She is the best.
She's sleeping on
She's very sleepy cinnamon roll right now.
Oh.
So
Can
you
She's
and Jonah
listening.
are the ones who you sense the.
We sense the things, and that was
Yeah.
the funny thing. So right before we started doing Halloween tours, it was kind of
Oh,
funny
gosh.
because we're just thinking like, oh man, like we didn't plan on doing Halloween tours.
Sure.
We're gonna decorate a little bit. And sure enough, this website, God, what was the name of it? I can't remember anymore. It shouted us out, and it had over 1 million followers on Instagram.
What?
And I just saw, I didn't even see that post.
Yeah.
Right.
I just saw my booking system blow up online. I was
Dollar
like, wow,
signs.
where are these people booking from? This is random.
Yeah.
And then somebody tags me, of course, and then they all tag me. They're like, oh my gosh, congratulations. And I was like, what is this?
Right.
They're like,
Awesome.
haunted mansion in Central Florida. It's
Okay.
haunted Halloween
Yes.
tours. I was like,
Incredible.
no.
You
I
gotta
was
give a
like,
little context to this story.
Drew, we have to go to
We had-
Target.
We had this whole conversation where we're like, are we going to do Halloween tours? And
Yeah.
we're like, no, I don't really want the house to have that reputation of being
Yeah.
haunted. We're not going to do Halloween tours this year.
Yeah.
And then,
And
then it
this
happens.
big,
Wow.
1 million
Okay, the house
followers
heard.
article.
Was that conversation in the house?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we
says-
buy every single pumpkin and skeleton that we can find at
Yep.
the time. And then we come home, and I was baking something in the kitchen.
I think Krislin's trolling the Walmart parking lot this time, looking for hobos she can bring into the house.
Yeah, jacking people there.
How do you think I have
Skeleton.
so many skeletons? So sure enough, it's just a random night, and we've kind of have the house set up, and we're thinking like, man, we're not really prepped for these Halloween
Yeah.
tours. Like I got a
Right.
couple skeletons, pumpkins, I got some of my oddities on display, but we don't have a whole lot for Halloween, because we didn't pitch it.
Of course.
And so we have to think about what we're going to do in a week and a half before it starts.
Wow.
And I was baking in the kitchen. I'm always baking. I bake cakes and different things, European treats. And Joan comes downstairs from upstairs and she's looking a little spooked. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, Joan is a happy-go-lucky dog. She loves everyone. She loves life. She has a zest for life, as we like to call it. And she comes down the stairs, and I think she goes down to Drew. And I'm still, working in the kitchen, taking things off, sheet pans, and she goes to Drew. You can continue from your portion, Drew.
Please.
I wasn't even listening.
Oh, okay. Well, regardless, at this point in her life, Joan of Arc was like 1 year old, and she still had to be tucked into bed.
Yeah,
so she goes to Daddy to be tucked into bed.
She has since, she's a big girl now. She's grown over. As you guys can see, she's willing to put herself to sleep.
Yeah.
As you can see in that corner. But at the time, at right around 10 o'clock,
What
pretty
time
much
is it?
sharp.
What time is it now, actually?
It's 9:30.
Okay.
She's had a rough day. I guess.
We got to wrap this up.
A lot of people rolling through. So Joan actually comes down the stairs, and I'm thinking, okay, it's time for me to put her to bed. Daddy's got to carry her down to the bed and tuck her in, and then she can sleep. She's not having it. Like her tail is tucked between her legs. It's up at her stomach. She is like shaking. She's like freaking out, and she's looking everywhere. Like it's almost like she's following, like tracking a fly or something. That's what I'm thinking. Like there's something in the room. Look around, don't see anything, and it's just like, Joan, are you okay? And it gets she doesn't get better. It gets progressively worse. Probably escalates all the way up to probably midnight, maybe a little later.
I think so. Well, that's the thing is like right around midnight is where it got really bad. But she kept trying to hide under tables and things with her tail tucked in.
She ends up going to the corner of a room, and she just like crams herself in the corner. She is like whimpering and crying, and like I'm at the point where I'm like, Krislin, we need to take her to the vet. Like something's seriously wrong.
And you're
I'm worried. I'm like, what is going on? Is she okay?
Yeah.
And then I hear it. And
don't even.
You jump the gun on the guns out, but and then I hear footsteps on the stairs.
Nope.
And that's when the guns come out.
Yeah.
No, but at that point, I'm kind of like, okay, we have a lot of ghost hunters. At least when we first got the house, a lot of people would try to like break in, see it had a reputation for being haunted.
Sure. Wait, they would try to break in while you're living here?
Yes, with the lights on while we're watching television and eating dinner. I've had people knock on my front door trying to break it down to come in. That's a whole nother story. I mean, scaring people like they thought I was a ghost and they ran for it and fell down my front stairs. Another story.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah. No, we have a lot.
A ghost hunter shouldn't be that spooked by the sight of a woman, though.
No, it was my shadow on the stairs.
Have you looked at Krislin? She's so pale. She looks like a ghost.
If I was wearing a white dress, they'd be dead.
And on your heelys as you went towards the door, and they're like,
it's true. That's so wild. So what was the culmination of the evening? Midnight, it gets worse, and then
so it keeps getting worse and worse. There's the whole story to this. So midnight comes around. Joan's even worse. I hear footsteps on the stairs. My first thought is like one of these ghost hunters is breaking into the house, or we have a burglar, and it's like, oh crap.
Right.
So I run around to and we're back in the kitchen at this time.
You're about to make Swiss cheese out of these.
Oh yeah. I run around to look up the stairs. I'm thinking I can hear them walking up the stairs, and it's like I'm gonna go yell at them, or at least tell them to get the heck out of my house.
Right.
Turn around the stairs, look up. There's no one there. Right. Absolutely nothing. So I'm like,
I'm done.
What the heck? So that was when it got really creepy for me. I don't know if it was better that I didn't see someone or worse.
Sure.
I'm still kind of debating that internally. But actually, I end up going back to the kitchen. And I'm like, Krislin, like, am I going crazy? Like, did you hear those footsteps?
Yeah.
And I ask her, and she's about to say yes, I think.
No.
And we both get shushed. It's like a shh. And we both just look at each other, and it comes from like right next to us. But there's no one there.
It's a Scooby-Doo moment where you just look at each other and you're like, what is that? And just all the hair on your arm just raises. And that's
creepy.
for me, like, once I saw like Joan and once I went up the stairs, I kind of fell off. And so we go investigate, and we go into the room at the top of the stairs, and I break out the smudge sticks.
Yeah, Krislin goes wild with her. I don't even know what it is. Some sort of burning some sage or something. And I don't even know what that's supposed to do. But Kristen's like having a field day. I'm just
whatever.
I'll take whatever. At this point,
sage in the gun.
Roll with it, Krislin. Whatever.
Shoot
Silver
sage
bullets.
I don't care.
Right.
Just get it out of here.
Trying to shoot me, okay? So that was a definitely an unnerving moment.
Yeah.
We've had some actually with tour guests. We have one particular moment. This is an interesting one because it didn't involve. It wasn't around Halloween time. It wasn't even nighttime. So it was I hadn't even told any Halloween stories, hadn't told any ghost stories. We were actually in the reception room, the room we're actually in right now.
Okay.
The next room we move into is right over here, right around where you're sitting,
Okay,
actually.
here we go. I'm done here.
But
It's literally like so fidgety right now.
I have put my sweat headband on.
But what actually occurred, so the way the tour progresses, we actually move over here to this Eastern Sunroom next. One of the guests kind of lingered behind. He was actually checking out in the corner of the room. There's actually a pre like 1880s bishop funeral procession robe in the corner.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I'm looking at it now.
He is apparently very into that. He's checking it out. He thinks it's the coolest thing ever. I'm over there in that sunroom. I am doing my rigmarole. I'm telling him all about the inventions, the gadgets, and the doodads. I'm just absolutely like one of those guys from the infomercials. Just living my best life.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Let me tell you about the ShamWow. No, wait, there's more. So I'm just living my best life over there. And then in the middle of my spiel, come on, I really think I'm like red hot.
You're killing
I'm about
it.
to hit a hot hat trick here. My jokes are good, like everything's landing. And this dude just bursts in and he interrupts me and he just completely shuts me down. And he says, "Did you guys hear that?"
Okay.
We all look at him and we're like, "No." And we're like, "This guy's crazy. Like, what's going on here?" And he proceeds to tell us, and he says, as the tour moved on to the sunroom, I was kind of sitting back. I was checking out this bishop, robe, really, really cool. I'm into that kind of stuff. I collect, I think he collect, I don't even remember, religious relics or something. And he says, as he's looking at it, one of the other guests actually pushes him, and he tells him, "Move along." And he turns back and he's like, "You know what? I paid good money for this tour." And he says he's going to give this guy a piece of his mind.
Yeah.
He turns around. He is the last person on the tour.
Don't like that.
There is no one there. So I have no clue if he's messing with us or not. But it's the middle of the day. It's not Halloween. I think it's over the summertime. And this is like an elderly gentleman. And he is like blanched, completely white. And he did not wander a single room after that tour. He stuck by me. He was like glue.
That's so amazing.
I mean, there's so many items in here. I feel like that could have a story.
And they do.
I mean,
They
stories
do.
like that. And
They all do.
There's an executioner's sword in the
We're good.
basement
From the 1500s.
Okay.
When the moment that thing came in, I was like, no.
No, downstairs.
Okay,
No,
back up.
because whatever was attached to that was very angry at the time. It eventually calmed down, but I was like, that thing's got to just
She
go
knew.
somewhere.
She
far,
felt it. I feel it.
far away.
I mean,
That's-
how
that
many people
sword-
could that? Right.
That sword killed people for a living.
It did.
And so that you guys still have that? It's here now?
We do.
Cool.
It's definitely calmed down. Whatever was with it went away. And that's the interesting thing is I do have a good friend who comes on the tours a lot. And I'm like, you really just need an annual pass. Like you don't have to pay anymore at this
Right.
point. You've come on like 20 tours with her family. And it was a Christmas tour and her family was doing the tour and we were just standing outside the West Sunroom where the tour begins. And it was interesting because the tour had moved on and we're just standing there just catching up and talking. And like I tell him, like, you really don't need to pay for a tour because we're just talking. You're my friend.
Right.
We can talk.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we both see this figure just like move.
Okay.
And she's like, "Oh,
Okay.
did you see him?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did." And we're both like, "Okay, yeah, sure.
Time to go.
There's somebody here." And I was like, "Yeah, they've been here for a while." And she's like, "Yeah, I know." And I'm like, "They feel kind of lost." And the way I try to explain to people, because they're always like, "Oh, is it haunted?" I'm like, "Well, no." But it's almost like a pass-through point.
Okay.
It's not haunted.
If you say so.
Sometimes there's something that comes and it stays. Like, I don't know how to explain it to people.
It's in transit.
Lingerer.
It just lingers. And it was this very lost kind of, I'm just going to call it energy because whatever people believe. And it was in that room. And it was funny because some other people would notice it. And they're like, do you have a room in here? Like, is there something wrong? And I'm like, there's one room where something's hanging out right now. And they're like, is it the first room? I was like, yes,
first
it
room?
is. It's the first room. It's the one on the left side.
The one I'm
And
looking
there
at.
was
The one
somebody
where you told us
there.
somebody passed away.
And then eventually I have to tell them to, okay, you got to go.
Yeah.
You got to move on.
Yeah, you tell them.
And eventually
Right.
they do, because you have to tell them. And that's the thing is
Closing
like,
time.
it's, you got to move on. But there are things that come through. Most of the time they don't stay.
Yep.
But sometimes things will linger for a while. And it's interesting because I'll be in the basement with Joan and it'll just be at home, just the two of us. I'll get home from work and then we'll feel something and we just like make eye contact with each other because she knows too if there's something wrong. And she just looks at me. She's like, "What do you want me to do?" It's like, "Well,
I'm
we can
a dog."
investigate."
Bark at it, yeah.
Well, she doesn't bark. She just like looks at me because she's waiting for me to make the first move because
Right.
she will follow whatever I do.
She's like, "Mom, grab the executioner sword."
Right, yeah.
Permission
Like
to be
Diablo
scared.
2 over here.
I don't know how. Like you just said that you hung out. You hang out with Joan downstairs. no way. There's no way that I could just chill out downstairs in that basement area.
I would say this, the levels of fear would increase the further I go into the earth. So like
he does have a fear of the earth.
Yeah. So like being in the basement earlier, I'm like, this is kind of cool. This is what's hard to explain. It's equally cool, equally spooky in the basement. You know
Well, it was also a
Like,
garage because he would drive through if it was raining outside. So that could bring you some comfort.
There's also a giraffe down there.
No, it is really cool, but I think there's something like maybe it's like a childhood like fear where it's like, oh, it's the basement. You know what I mean? It's stereotypical.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah,
oh, the
yeah,
basement
yeah.
spooky. But you guys have like a basement, and then the basement has a basement.
Yep.
And then that basement has a granddaughter.
Your basement is square. It's a squared basement.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like 3 levels. Of basement.
And so like Cameron was saying, being down there like when you're alone in the house is like, no way, bro. Like, you know what I mean? But like it's so cool to me though that like, you know, you and Joan are kind of like, you're comfortable with it. You know, you just you know, you're kind of just chill with it, and that's really awesome. I would rather, I think, being ignorant, I would rather be around something that's passing through that maybe was attached to, let's say, like a lamp or a painting, and not that sword. You know what I mean? Because I feel like the sword would carry like that kind of, like you said, like
you think the ghost can
Bad
only
juju.
like it's
bad vibes.
Right.
100%.
You're thinking it's a proximity ghost, like the ghost can only go 5 feet from the executioner sword.
I think if I'm
I
a
don't
ghost
think
and I'm
that's the way
attached
it
to the
works.
sword, I'm pissed.
You're hanging out with the sword
Yeah.
though.
Well, that's what it was. Whatever was attached to it was angry.
Right.
And it was funny because growing up, my dad would always ask me, we'd go to these places. So I'm originally from Estonia. Estonia is a very tiny country. We only have a population of about 1.3 million people, and it's getting smaller and smaller. So in Estonia, there are 2 major islands, Hiiumaa and Saaremaa. On Hiiumaa, which is where my grandfather lives and where my dad was born, you have to take a ferry boat, which is a 45-minute ferry boat ride, and then you have to drive into the woods.
Okay.
And we would go into the woods, and there would be this house that was owned by these Finnish people, and then my grandfather would take care of it. My grandfather's a hunter, so he would turn on the heat for them in the winter. But every time we would go to visit, because we would stay there, because we stay with some family friends, my dad would always look at me and be like, "Is there something here?" Because he would know. He
You
would
didn't
know
have to look at
immediately
us for
from my
that.
face.
You didn't have to
He'd
look
be
at us
like,
for that.
"Krislin, is there something here?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and it doesn't like me.
Okay.
Right.
So whatever was
I'm gonna
attached
face this
to that particular building was also upset. So this was in the 40s. You know, Estonia was in the middle of Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. We had a lot of death and a lot of war and a lot of people that were sent out. So there was a lot of just conflict and everything that happened.
Sure.
So whatever was attached to that building was very upset, and it let it be known. And I was the only person that felt it at the time. So my dad was always like, "What's it doing? Like, where is it?"
gosh.
Like,
Right.
so
What's the vibe today?
exactly, basically. But with the executioner sword, whatever was attached to that was just very angry intentionally, and then it eventually just kind of went away or calmed down. I don't know how to explain it, and it's hard, and it depends on what you believe in your belief system, because it all has to do with your value
Something
system.
pushed his mom down the steps, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing is like,
on that
Krislin,
topic.
you're so lucky you were not home, because I would have blamed you.
She had a rock
Next,
solid alibi.
maybe this Christmas I might butter the stairs. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So it's funny you're worried about the executioner's sword and the the basement and sub
He's
basement
about to one-up it.
basement.
Oh, you're
Because it's
done.
the 3rd floor that we get most of our ghost stories from the
Really?
contractors.
Did we
Yeah.
go up there?
Yes.
You did.
Okay.
That was where the big wraparound balcony was.
Oh yeah.
That's cool. That's where I learned Murphy beds. That he basically invented Murphy beds.
Another one of his ideas.
His own version of
And
them, because they
the,
were invented in 1900.
And the laundry chute from any room in the house. This is just me remembering. You could get naked. That's all I remember.
What? I mean, you could get
That was a
naked
great
anywhere.
takeaway from that.
Drew, could you,
what were
Drew,
the
could you
actual
clarify
facts?
what Josh was trying to say?
You could get naked in
Something
any
about
room.
getting naked.
Is it true you can get naked in
any room of your
The
house.
laundry chute is attached to like.
You could get naked in any room in the house.
See, I told you guys.
So definitely a theoretical possibility.
With the amount of yard work you do, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it gets hot sometimes. So essentially, Conrad had his own take on just about every invention ever.
Yeah.
One of his takes was on the laundry chute system. So he actually had a laundry chute system. He actually called it an ant colony style laundry chute system because it was one main chute which
Okay.
branched down the entire center of the house, and then there's a series of sub chutes which actually branch out, and they would touch every single room in the house.
Yeah.
So no matter
Crazy.
what room you're in the entire house, you could get naked.
Hey, see,
take
told
your clothes
you.
off. You
Told
could put
you.
your dirty clothes into this an actual like the laundry chute. There would
Right.
actually be like a little
Right.
drawer you could actually put your clothes in. It would go all the way down to the basement.
Yeah.
Now, once it was in the basement, it would actually go into another suspended chute, which Conrad had suspended over a massive custom washing machine he had built. So what you could actually do, you could pull a lever, you could drop all the dirty clothes right into that washing machine. But he would tell
Incredible.
people you can get naked in
Right.
any room in the entire house,
Yep.
and you don't have to see the clothes again until they're completely clean.
But what's
Yeah.
mind blowing is he never used it because he never lived here.
it doesn't mean he didn't use it.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, but
you never
like,
know when you need to get naked.
Hey, man,
Right.
I've always
So
said
true.
that. I've always said that. You never know when you get naked.
yeah, you have a good point.
I just want to say too, like in the spirit of like being here tonight. That one of the reasons why we even reached out is because our listeners asked us to.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys. I mean, you get this because you live here and it's a part of your story and you're part of the house's story now. But it's wildly popular. Like really popular, and people like are reaching out to us like kind of aggressively, like you show us about Florida and you haven't covered the Wonder House, and we're
Yeah.
like, well, give us a minute.
And you're
you
from
know what I
Central
mean?
Florida. And how have you
Yeah.
been down the road?
So
Like,
being
oh,
here
crap.
for us is like it's very special for us. We feel like we're in history, but you guys living here, it's just phenomenal. It's so
Very
cool
cool.
what you guys have done to it, brought it to life, and as a show that appreciates history and legends and lore, you two are living in the middle of
Right.
it,
And like
you
just
said, caretaking.
phenomenal. Yeah, you're caretakers.
Yeah.
Which is
You're
beautiful.
going to go down in history.
Yeah,
which
you're a
is
part of
pretty
history
cool.
at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
We really
It's wild.
appreciate it, honestly.
Thank you. It's it's hard to explain because it is such a special place.
Yeah,
like you said,
absolutely.
like you're a caretaker for it. This house is gonna be around long after both
Right.
of us are gone, unless Google comes up with something where we can live forever. in which
Right,
case,
maybe.
but,
We'll see.
it's hard to
For it.
tell.
Maybe.
Sure, you never know.
But it really is something, and it's something that's it's almost solemn. I mean, it's like a responsibility you have.
Sure,
I have
sure.
to take care of this house. I have to make sure it's okay. You have to respect the house. It's something special, and it actually surprises me to hear people are actually reaching out to you because
Oh,
the
yeah.
house was a huge tourist attraction in the 30s and 40s. It seems like everyone knew about it. It quite literally put Bartow on the map.
Right.
But by the 50s and 60s, I mean, it really had fallen off. I mean, I regularly have people living in Bartow haven't heard of the house.
Wow.
So we've almost been on a quest to kind of bring it back so people
Sure.
can learn
Yeah,
about it.
absolutely.
Well-
And you guys live here, but how often are you giving tours? I mean, is it like a weekend thing or is it something that you're
Promoting, or is it a...
Tours are a weekend thing for us. So depending on the season, it will vary.
gotcha?
During the summer, because it's a lot slower, it'll be on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at noon. But once we hit the holiday season, so like Halloween, it'll be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But
Wow.
Perfect.
same thing with Christmas, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then by the end of it, so it all starts like October 1st and ends like right before my birthday in January. And I'm just like, I don't want to see anybody for like a week.
Right.
I'm holding myself in my room. I'm like a mega introvert.
Now, in fairness, Krislin does an awesome job decorating for Halloween and
I
Christmas. So
can
she has a
only
reason to be
imagine.
tired.
Yeah.
I am
Right.
very tired.
She
And
does
then
an
I bake
incredible
on the
job.
side and I teach
Wow.
middle schoolers. So it's
Oh,
like,
geez.
I just
The
don't
worst
want
kids
anything.
ever.
I love them. They're the most misunderstood group. Granted, today they were very like on my last nerve. And I was like, I
want to make you
And then
dig
she
a
has to come home
basement.
to me.
Yeah.
I know. And it's like, wow, look, another middle schooler. But no,
Well,
they're great.
Burn.
How can we find if someone's listening or watching? How can they find a way to register for tours?
So our tours can all be found on wonderhousebartow.com. And if you go to our historic tours page, it'll redirect you to bookio.com/wonderhousebartow, which will take you to the booking system. So you must register for a tour online in advance before you show up. Please don't
Yes.
show up without a reservation
Right.
because it is our full-time private residence and it's very hard for us to be running a tour and then greeting guests. So there are only certain time slots because we still do have to work on the house. We still have laundry to do, dishes to do,
I don't
meals
understand
to
how you
cook,
guys
and
do it.
everything else.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
a lot, and it's a
Ghosts
lot to
to
manage.
fight.
Ghosts
Ghosts to
Right.
fight, demons to slay.
Right.
But it's hard. So if you go online and you book a tour, I will release Christmas tours on November 1st at 6 p.m. So right now Halloween is
cool.
all open.
Perfect.
But yeah, Christmas will run November 19th through January 8th or 9th. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Christmas, we have a night tour and a day tour. The night tour, I cook all a giant Estonian feast for. So you
What?
get like the whole shebang. You get Kringle, you get our version of gingerbread cookies,
Incredible.
you get sugared cranberries, you get mulled wine, you get like deviled eggs, the whole thing. I come home after teaching 100 middle schoolers,
mind-blowing.
and I cook you a meal,
This
and
sounds
I
like a
give
bargain.
you a tour, and it is magical because the whole house is lit from top to bottom.
Okay.
So every
You gotta
year
come
I add
back.
on more. The bridges are lit. I light the chimney, the
Oh
whole
my
thing
gosh.
from top to bottom. We have how many Christmas trees do I have? 14.
Oh my
I
goodness.
think we're at
Yes,
14 now.
some-
Do you
something like
guys,
that.
Do you guys ever sleep
No, what is sleep?
or
And
do
then
anything outside of? I mean, you guys. It seems like you guys are always doing something for the house.
For
feel
the
like-
most part, we're constantly working on and trying to think of improvements. A lot of our customers, or it's weird to say customers, a lot of our tour guests
Right.
or friends and people that come and visit, visitors is, I guess, would be the terminology correct. So
You
people
make
that
the
come
rules, you know?
are people that are repeats. So I
Really?
just looked at all my people that booked the first Halloween tours, and it's all repeat
Oh,
visitors,
so
which is
cool.
so
That's
sweet
awesome.
That's
because
incredible.
they
Yeah.
came on the tour last year. They want to see what we've added. Same thing
Right.
for Christmas. I'm sure it'll be all the same first group of people and then new visitors to see like how much we've done in a year. And that's the thing is what keeps you moving forward is the same people that come back and see, okay,
Right.
we know your admission goes to helping us keep funding this project. I'm a teacher. Drew's a prosecutor. You know, we're really making the big bucks,
Yeah,
air
right,
quotes,
big gov
right?
money.
Mhm. So tours help us
Yeah.
buy
Right.
flooring, buy paint, buy all these different things to help us recreate the house into what it was originally intended to be, to bring it back to its original glory. So that way we can share it back with the people of everything and then have it be magical and people come and learn more about the house because that allows us to do more, you know?
And we've
So-
probably been here a few hours and we've gotten what, 3% of the history? About
I always say I can make an 8-hour tour.
I wouldn't
on,
doubt
man.
that.
Easily.
No,
With food
yeah.
and everything
Incredible.
else.
And it would be incredible. There's no like shortage of things to talk about in here. Like you said, every item in here has
It's
a history, and it is jam packed with like
Right.
incredible just
relics.
items and furniture and antiques. Like there's a suit of armor right in front of me. Like I don't know. It's just like I feel like I could sit here and talk about just the stuff in the house like forever.
And the thing is, like,
Incredible.
everything has a crazy story behind it.
Yes.
Like, and we could just go into detail. We could spend half an hour in at least every single room. Like,
Yeah.
just
Half
the
an hour.
elk behind you. Oh, that's way more than half an hour.
I wish I could do
With
it
the
in
way
half an
Drew
hour.
does it, it's like 45 minutes in every room at this point.
Cool.
But like
I
the
love
elk
it.
behind you, we found him right before we got
Yeah.
like moved into the Wonder House, and it was like right before Thanksgiving week. We were just driving around looking for antiques, driving up
There's an
to
elk
Ocala,
head.
stopped at a pawn shop. I personally don't care for pawn shops because they don't usually typically have like things I like. But
I
Drew was
love
like,
them though.
Drew loves them. So we stopped there, and they're going out of business.
Yeah.
And then they try to sell Drew on this elk. And he's like, no. Like, we're driving Drew's Kia Forte, which is a small car.
That's my forte.
Oh gosh.
So he's trying to sell Drew this like elk and deer head.
It's a really good price. Okay.
It was a good price.
Okay.
I won't lie.
For
And
an
we're-
elk head. I mean, you
Yeah, for
priced
an
them.
elk.
You're like,
And
well,
he's
this
like-
is competitive.
I feel like, do I need to take over? I gotta do this story
Yeah,
justice.
no,
This is a good one. This is a
that's
good one.
right. So go for it.
So this guy, I love this story. So we're going in there. Kristen does not want to go in this pawn shop at
Yeah.
all. But,
Not
you know,
interested.
This is luckily I was driving the car, so I got to make the executive decision.
Yeah.
So of course we go into the pawn shop. We get in there, and this place is like hoarder's paradise. It's just like covered
Really?
with junk.
Right.
And the guy walks up to us as soon as we walk in. He's like, "I have to have everything out in 2 weeks," and we're like,
Okay.
"Oh, good luck with
Okay.
that."
Yeah. Well,
And so we're just like looking around. What are we looking at? Like a deer skull, I think. That atypical, that weird like horned one.
and a Jurassic Park VHS.
I literally don't remember.
It was like this. We were looking at this like deer horn. It had like one like side of the horns was crazy, and the other was like.
How do you
nubby.
remember this?
So I have
Wow.
a good memory.
No, you do not. Where'd you leave
I
your
have a
keys?
good long-term memory.
Where's your
That's
keys,
short
Drew?
term. Short term. We're on different things. A lot of head injuries from all the boxing and stuff. But anyways, so we're like looking at this deer skull, and he's like, "Oh, you like that?" I'm like, "I mean, yeah, I'm just looking at it. It's pretty cool." And he's like, "You like what about that mount over there? That deer mount?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's pretty cool too." What about that elk? You want an elk? And I'm like,
Whoa. Okay.
I
This
mean,
guy's selling it.
I'm
This
like, man,
escalates
that's
really
like pretty
pushing the
cool, yeah."
animals.
And he's like, look, I'll give them all to you. He's like, $300. And I'm like, it's a pretty good buy.
That's a good
I'm like,
price.
man, like,
okay, yeah.
yeah, all right. I'm like, but
Yeah.
I'm driving my Kia Forte. I'm like, I gotta get a buddy, like get a truck or something. I'm like, right, I'll come back later. He's like, no, do you want this elk? He's like, you got to buy it right now.
What?
I'm offering it to the next
Please.
person who walks in the door. And I'm like, putting me in a hard spot here.
You couldn't say he's bluffing because he really pushed it on you. So
Right. So I'm like,
push
you know
on
what?
everybody.
I'll take it.
Oh
So
my
I buy this
God,
elk. So for the
please.
next hour maybe, we're trying
At
to
least.
shove this elk mount. Like it's
Please.
huge. I mean, it's
Yeah,
shoulders on.
massive.
We're trying to shove it in the sunroof. It doesn't work. We're like in the side of the
my
door, the passenger
God.
door,
What
any
is-
door we can.
Yeah.
And I don't. The Kia Forte trunk is not very expansive, I should say.
Yeah, it wasn't a good selling point. on the
No,
Forte.
I'm definitely not. Maybe the gas mileage, maybe. The trunk, not so much.
Trunk space, no.
So we finally are like, well, we're out of options here. So we just managed to like get a little bit of like the shoulders of this mount into the trunk. And then we have like tied this like, I don't know what
my
you call
God,
it, like a
please.
bridle or something around its head. It's like running through the trunk. Kristen's sitting there in the passenger seat, like holding this.
Oh my God.
Like holding it together. And we go to drive home. Oh, and we're up in Ocala or something?
We
Oh
were
my
driving back from
gosh.
Ocala to Bartow.
This is a 3 hour.
This is right after we moved into the house. I'm from Sebring. She's from Fort Myers. We have no clue where Bartow is. So we're trying to find it. We are hopelessly lost. And I'm like, well, Kristen, just whip out the old phone. And we have her GPS, navigation. You know, it's the 21st century. Life is good.
Please. Yeah.
Her phone dies.
Oh my God.
And I'm quite the Luddite. I'm not much with technology. So sometimes I don't charge my phone. So I'm like, well, no worries, Kristen. We'll just whip my phone out. My phone's dead.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there driving in the middle of nowhere. We have absolutely no clue where we
No
are.
Atlas or Rand McNally.
Dude, nothing. We don't have a map. Nothing. Nothing. So we're driving torrential downpour.
Oh my gosh.
And we have this like elk just hanging out the back of the trunk. And we have no clue where we are. I'm pretty sure, Big E, the Christmas elk, is completely ruined. I'm pretty upset. And every single car is stopping, slowing down, and like honking at us.
Oh yeah.
Because it
Your
looks
elk's
like
falling out.
Yeah, no, not that falling out. Well, they were sitting there like, "You go, kids," because they're thinking from the way. I wish we had a picture of it. It looks
killed
like
the elk?
It looks like
Yes.
we stuffed an entire elk in my
Okay.
Kia Forte.
Okay.
My head's just drooping out the back of the trunk. So people really think I have this whole
God.
elk passed in. So somehow we find Bartow and make it home. And
I saw
guarantee
Big E
Bartow
is
Ford.
there
It was
today.
like the gleaming light.
Gleaming light. Oh my god, we were so excited when we saw those like
Wow.
bright lights.
Oh, man.
Bartow.
Incredible.
I love
God.
it. Well, you guys honestly, like, you've been given such an amazing assignment to
Yeah.
take care of this house.
Love it.
Like you were saying, every single room has a story of its own, but we're honored to capture a very small portion of it.
Yep.
And we'll do whatever
Very
we can
thankful.
to spread the word about it, because again, like, we do love Florida history, and everything that kind of falls under that umbrella, and this is just a huge part
This
of it.
is
So thank you
insane.
for having us, for real.
Absolutely.
thank you.
One
Very,
more
very
time, tell
special.
us where you can find more information and booking and all that kind of stuff. One more time.
So for more information, if you just go to www.wonderhousebartow.com, all the information will be on that site. And for booking, if you just go to Historic Tours, or it's even just on the main page, you can just click on Historic Tours or book a tour. It'll take you there. We have a Facebook page. If you go to facebook.com/wonderhousebartow, I think 12,000 likes.
All right.
We've come
We're getting up
far.
there. We're getting up
That's
there.
the crazy thing is, like, I remember hitting 1,000, and I think I
Yeah.
was at
Big
Biscay
moment.
with my mom, and I was like, Mom, I got 1,000 likes on Facebook. It's so exciting. But now it's like, 12,000. I'm like, okay, cool. This is
Incredible.
Hopefully you
but
get
it's
a bump.
awesome because you see how many people are invested in it, how many
Spreading,
people
right,
care
yeah.
and like
Right,
love
right.
Florida history. And that's the big thing for us. This was one of the first tourist attractions in Florida.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we
So
were
cool.
preceded
Incredible.
by like the Fountain of Youth, Monkey Jungle, and a couple others. But
Right.
Wonder House came around, so it was an
One of the
official
few
tourist
still
attraction.
standing. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
it was 1934 was the official start date for tours. I mean, granted, it was unofficial before that, but it's one of the few things still
So cool.
standing and that people can visit and enjoy about old Florida.
Right.
So it's just wonderhousebartow.com, and then people can look up. So right now, just through the month of October, the only tours that we offer are Halloween tours.
Yep.
So the house is decorated for Halloween. We do cover more of like the spooky stories
Sure.
about the house. It is still a history tour. And then once we get to Christmas, they revert back to more history, obviously. And then it's just decorated
And
for
food.
Christmas. And food. So the night
Love it.
tour includes
forget
food,
the
and
food.
it will
Yes.
sell out. It always does every year.
Okay.
It's just the night
Oh, we
tour.
gotta
And don't ask Kristen for the recipe for the.
Do not ask me for the
Cranberries.
recipe for
Okay.
my sugared cranberries because you will not get it. I will take it to my grave.
Okay, we will not.
It's not written in my recipe book that you can
What about
find in the kitchen.
The mold
so
wine
it
is the mold wine recipe.
the mulled wine, I will give that to you
There
all
we
day
go.
long.
That's all I'm talking about.
But it's just those cranberries. You know how everybody makes those hot cocoa bombs during the holidays?
Right.
Yeah, okay, cool. Good for you. But like
Someone
the
sounds
sugared
bitter.
cranberries. No, I don't
Yeah.
care about your $8 hot cocoa bombs.
Get 'em.
Sorry.
Let's go.
Get
Very
'em.
bitter.
Like you can
go.
make
We're
a
taking a
chocolate
stand
ball.
against
Cool.
hot cocoa bombs right here.
I bought
go. I didn't
know we were
two for
taking
Drew
this
for
stand.
Christmas, but
I love them, by the way.
yeah, Drew loves them. I keep getting gifted to them by my students. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Like, I know who loves them. I personally like mulled wine
Stop
better
making
than
this
hot
speech because
chocolate.
I'm worried we're not going to get any more.
Yeah.
You're good. I have children
Middle
that like to
schoolers are
feed
a
me.
big
Middle
audience,
schoolers
too.
love feeding their teachers.
That's true. That's true.
They tell me where the stuffed animals are. They tell me where all the treats are. They bring me like
Wow.
breakfast. Like, they're
Amazing.
awesome. I
My
love
defendants don't treat me like that.
them. Because they're going to prison.
Oh my gosh.
And on that note-
What
On that
a note. Because they're going to prison.
Krislin, Drew, thank you so much.
Thank you
so much.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Thank you again.